Welcome, everyone. I'm Todd Robbins, and this is October 8th. Some appalling things happened on this day. Here's just a handful of them. Starting off in the year 876. 876 is the Battle of Andernach. I know not what this battle was all about. I'll tell you right now, I don't know exactly what countries or factions. All I know about it, and this is the only reason I mention it because I find dark whimsy in this, the outcome was Louis the Young beat Charles the Bald. So there. Jumping way ahead to 1818, you can hear the dogs barking because it's one of their favorite years. Two English boxers are the first to use padded gloves when boxing up to that time, and also thereafter for a very long time. Bare knuckle boxing was what it was all about, but they started using padded gloves. Now you think that this adds some sort of sophistication to the sport? No. All it really does is it extends the battle. And during the 19th century, there were boxing matches that went on for well over 100 rounds. Not the 10 or 12, 15 rounds we have today that we think are so barbaric, but more than 100. One went 120 rounds and ended with the death of one of the fighters when he drowned from the blood in his lungs. It's all because padded gloves allowed it to go that long. Started on this day in 1818. 1856 was the Second Opium War, or the Second Anglo-Chinese War. Anglo-Chinese War begins with the Arrow incident on the Pearl River. The Arrow was I believe, an English ship that was seized by the Chinese government. Because what was happening is that opium was being smuggled into China from India, for the most part, by the Western powers to influence. It was the Chinese government and the Chinese people. It was a huge market. And there was a lot of money being made by the West by importing opium. Now, it eventually kind of turned all around. And China kind of embraced it and exported opium. But at this time, it was all coming in, and they didn't want it. So the Chinese said no, and there was the second of two wars. I think there was actually a third war that happened. But this was the Second Opium War on this date, 1856. 1871. A forest fire destroys Prestego, Wisconsin, and it killed somewhere between 1,200 and 2,500 people, making it the deadliest wildfire in history. Happened on this day, 1871. It's interesting, the year before, not the year before, but this year, same day, the Great Chicago Fire, which killed 200 people and destroyed over 4 square miles, and it just, I can't remember how many millions of dollars damage it did. Well, it happened on this day. The cow kicked over Mr. O'Leary's lantern, supposedly. And the Great Chicago Fire happened on this day, 1871. It lasted, I think, for a couple of days, but it started on this day. One of the things that was destroyed, sadly, was the original copy of the Emancipation Proclamation. 1934, Bruno Hauptmann is indicted for the murder of Charles Lindbergh's son. This was the biggest thing that happened in that year, the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. And there's so many theories, so much conspiracy talk. Still, to this day, was Hauptmann really guilty? Was there something more going on? Did the kid actually survive? Because in later years, there were a number of people who claimed that they were the Lindbergh baby. I'm not one of them. So, but on this day, Bruno Hauptmann was indicted. Very, very sad day in Brooklyn. People are still pissed. 1957, something happened in 1957 that old people in Brooklyn are still pissed about. And that was that the Dodgers announced they were leaving Brooklyn and moving to Los Angeles. Betrayal, knife in the heart of Brooklynites. 1998, the U.S. House of Representatives votes to begin impeachment hearings against President Bill Clinton on charges they lied about an affair he had with an intern, Monica Lewinsky. That was the thing. Having an affair and saying you didn't have it. Yeah, they in those days, lying was a bad thing. Moving right along, 2001, U.S. President George W. Bush announces the establishment of the Office of Homeland Security. There goes the neighborhood. And there's a couple other, 1920, there was the birth of Frank Herbert, a wonderful writer, best known for writing Dune, a wonderful sci-fi writer. He was born in Tacoma, Washington on this day, died in 1986. Also on this day, now this is really interesting. I don't quite understand this. In doing research, this came up, and I was shocked and saddened when I read this. The birth on this day of 1943 of R.L. Stine, best known for the Goosebumps books. Those wonderful books that introduce kind of scary stuff, scary stories to the young. And in this notice, it says he died in 1997. No, he didn't. He's still around. He's still around. As far as I know, he's still around. Or if he died in 1997, no one told him. On this day in 1948, Pedro Alonso Lopez, a serial killer, it was his birth. He was a Colombian serial killer, and he was known as the Monster of the Andes. And he is... There was apparently another serial killer way back. I don't remember exactly the name, that supposedly killed 900 people. But this guy, we're pretty certain he killed somewhere between 100 and 300, maybe even more people. They found a mass grave. He bragged about how many he'd killed, and the authorities didn't believe him, and they found a mass grave with 53 bodies in it that he took them to and said, this is some of what I've done. Interestingly, he preyed upon women and did so of indigenous people, and a tribe caught him and was going to kill him. And an American missionary asked for mercy, and they ended up not killing him, and they turned him over to the authorities in Colombia, I believe, and the authorities let him go. Even when he was convicted of murder, he pleaded insanity, was found insane, sent to an insane asylum, cured, got out, killed more people, again captured, tried, put in an insane asylum, ended up paying a $50 fine. He has killed all these people, and no one knows where he is now because he was released. He's out there among you. Pedro Alonso Lopez. He's watching you. Yeah. Now, we mentioned yesterday that the Palestinian Liberation Organization, terrorists, hijacked, captured, took over a Italian liner ship, the Kili Laurel, and they found an American on there, one lovely old man in a wheelchair named Leon Klinghoffer. And because he was American, they decided to do something about it. So they threw this invalid man overboard. He was 69 years old. There was actually an opera written about this incident. I've never heard it, but it has a sweep to it that is truly operatic. Well, there you go, and there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy, by all means, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also, if you would, hit the notification so you're made aware of when the next video comes forth, because not only am I doing the daily, but there's also other content that is coming down the pike just for you. And that is, assuming you survive all the appalling things that will be happening to you on this day. And if you do survive, I hope to see you back here tomorrow. And if you don't survive, by all means, if you have the opportunity, do me a favor, as you're dying, if you have the opportunity, call someone over and say to them, I hid the money. Don't worry, I hid the money. And then close your eyes and drift away. Always leave them guessing. That's what I recommend. And keep your eyes open. Because in looking back, I also have an idea of what's coming forward in the future. There's going to be a very interesting shooting coming up. It could have been much worse than it was. Some people stepped in and did the right thing. But there's a shooting that's coming. So, for all of you, good luck.